This episode of Sheauxtime is brought to you by Civicside. Have an idea for your community but not sure how to get it done? The 24-Hour Citizen Project is an annual event that connects great ideas with the expertise, decision makers, and financial backing to help make them a reality. But these aren't ideas that the city takes on. These are projects taken on by you, the citizens of the community. Learn more at civicside.com. Ben Powers grew up in the small town of Turkey Creek, Louisiana, but was always fascinated by the bustling city of Lafayette. Before long, Ben moved and found himself lost in all the developments happening, prompting him to start Developing Lafayette, a small Facebook page dedicated to just that. Of course, he never expected that page to blossom into his full-time income, with the opportunity to expand to markets all over the U.S. Stay tuned. This is Sheauxtime. Sheauxtime is a weekly podcast where I interview some of Acadiana's most inspiring and influential people. To stay up to date with release schedules, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, all under Sheauxtime Podcast. That, of course, is spelled the Cajun way, SHEAUX Time Podcast. Also, if you'd like to sponsor this podcast, get in touch with me at SheauxtimePodcast@gmail.com. Again, Sheauxtime, spelled the Cajun way. And now, on to the interview. Ben, thanks for joining me, man. Appreciate it.
Sure thing.
So, I don't really know the history of Developing Lafayette. How old of a company are y'all now?
So it started in April of 2012. So, but if you want to talk actual like company records, that was August 2016. That's when it became a real company.
Gotcha. So in that 4 years, what were y'all at that point?
It was just a Facebook page and blog. It was just something that I created to just start posting about new businesses and new construction. And so I didn't know the path that it was going to be on,
right,
you know, for a longer period of time. It was just, that's where it was until we partnered up, and you know, that's kind of where it went from there. So
why were you were you passionate about that? I mean, why were you posting on a blog? That's something you were really interested in, was the development of Lafayette?
So what I tell a lot of people is that I came from a small town. It's called Turkey Creek.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously it doesn't sound like a big place.
Right.
It's basically woods and a couple of small convenience store, grocery store type places. And so growing up there, nothing ever happened. Like, I think the biggest development there, I think since I moved out, was a little mom and pop cafe. But living there, not much happened. We got a new post office, and it's one of those modular buildings that they created to make.
Yeah.
So they just made it a post office, but yeah, nothing ever really happened there, and that's by design of their government. They didn't want outside bigger corporations coming in and basically, so to speak, destroying Main Street, which there's not really a Main Street in Turkey Creek. It's just local stores.
Where is Turkey Creek? Because I don't think I've ever heard of it.
Do you know where Ville Platte's at?
Yeah.
Okay, so you go about 18 miles north of Ville Platte. You stay on I think it's 167. Yeah. Or Highway 13. I think it's 167. I think it meets up with Highway 13 in Turkey Creek.
Gotcha.
So yeah, you go into Ville Platte. It splits into two separate roads, one way and the other side the other way, and then you'll just get out of Ville Platte and you'll go north on 167, and then you just keep going until you get to a yield sign, and the yield sign is in Turkey Creek.
Gotcha. So smaller than Ville Platte is what you're saying? Way
smaller than Ville Platte.
Gotcha.
The population in Turkey Creek is probably 350 people.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a village.
Oh, okay. All right. Gotcha. So when did you move out of Turkey Creek?
I moved out of Turkey Creek in 2010.
Okay. So you lived there for most of your life then?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Most of my life. I've lived in a couple other places growing up. Like I lived in Lake Charles for a few years, and I was real small.
Mm-hmm.
And then we moved back to Turkey Creek because that's where my family's from. So they wanted to be next to family. So yeah.
What made you finally make the move? And did you go straight from Turkey Creek to Lafayette, or you went somewhere else?
So I think this would be my official like growing up, moving out of the house move. But I did move out to Lake Charles around 19 years old whenever I graduated high school. And I was going to go try to pursue an education in graphic design at, I think it's Suella. Is it Suella in Lake Charles?
I don't remember, but
I think it's a trade school there.
Right.
And whenever I moved there kind of with a girlfriend, like a rough part of my life.
Okay.
But yeah, so that is, I stayed there for a couple of years. Didn't go to trade school there. I ended up basically apprenticing under other people, graphic designers and all that good stuff, and kind of developed my trade there. And this, I'm getting to a place. So I ended up leaving Lake Charles a couple of years out. I think I moved back to Turkey Creek in 2008. And so I had like a small business. I created like a little print business, graphic design business. And so I was pretty much self-employed for a couple of years. And in 2010, a local company called Hillco Printers in Scott, they reached out to me, and the owner, Obi, he was like, "Hey, I saw some of your print work, and I'm interested in meeting you and all that good stuff. And would you be, down to come to Lafayette and take a tour of our print?"
How did he find your stuff?
So I did a lot of flyers for car shows and a bunch of local people, business cards, all that good stuff. And so the car show flyers that I did locally, I guess he got his hands on a couple of them because he has friends and that own like some nice cars and all that good stuff.
Gotcha.
So he saw, I guess he saw my name on it. I'm still a little unsure how that happened, but he ended up calling me. He said, "Hey, you want to meet and take a tour of our place?" So I did. I set up a meeting with them, and I went there with every intention of getting a job. He didn't know that. I had a portfolio. I had all of my printed samples laminated and everything. I had a resume that was all tweaked out, and I went there with every intention of getting employed. And like I said, he didn't know it. And so meeting with them, I showed him all the logos that I have designed and some pretty, in my opinion, some nice stuff at the time, because I entered a lot of crowdsourcing contests, and I know graphic designers hate that. But it was a way for me to make money, and I made a few $1,000s doing that. And so I showed him all that work, and I said, I'm looking to potentially have a full-time gig and try to move to Lafayette eventually. He says, "Well, are you looking for work now?" I'm like, "If it comes my way." And all I'm in the back of my mind, I'm like, screaming.
Anytime now,
I'm screaming.
Any minute.
And so he met with his general manager, kind of like the guy who's in charge of hiring and all that. And probably about 10 minutes later, came back to me and he said, "Hey, we can offer you a job if you want. We got a desk and everything open, and you'd start at X amount." I'm like, "Sure. When do I start?" He goes, "Next week." I'm like, "I don't even live here. Like, what do I do?" So thankfully I have some family that live in like, I want to say it's the back part of Crowley. I'm going to butcher this location. I think it might be Indian Bayou. I don't know. It's back part of Crowley. You got to drive a little ways.
Okay.
So I came to Lafayette working, and then I went and stayed at my family's place in Crowley, and for about 2 weeks until I got a paycheck to where I can establish an apartment and all that good stuff.
Yeah, and then you moved closer into the city, or you stayed kind of in the outskirts?
So I moved in Karen Crow. There's an apartment complex behind the Lowe's, and that was an affordable range for me, and they were pretty decent. It had a nice pool, a hot tub, and all that good stuff. So for the price range, that was the best fit. And I looked at a couple of other apartments, and that one was the best choice. So I lived right off I-49 pretty much. So pretty quick access from Karen Crow to Lafayette.
So that was 2010 at this point?
Yeah, 2010. That was the summer of 2010.
Gotcha.
And I've been here ever since.
So that was the first time you'd moved to Lafayette. I mean, that was it. You had been in Lake Charles, but you hadn't been to Lafayette prior.
Right. No, as a kid, we've come to Lafayette a few times. Just kind of like that big city trip,
Right,
every
right.
once in the blue moon.
Lafayette, the big city.
Right,
You know?
right. And hey, for people in Turkey Creek, Lafayette is the big city.
Yeah.
Because there was so much here, and people in Turkey Creek's favorite place in Lafayette is, of course, Texas Roadhouse and Olive Garden. Olive Garden's fine
I mean,
dining from out
look.
of town people.
Look, don't talk to me about Texas Roadhouse. Okay, I can go on and on about that being my favorite place ever. So it's
Hey,
it's not just for the outsiders.
Trust me, I don't knock it. I eat there,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you have some hardcore local people who, if you're caught eating there, they're like, you're not supporting local. I mean, and to an extent, you're not supporting a local, like, small business, but it's still money that somehow down the line stays in town.
Right. I mean, look, I love supporting local, but no one can deny that Texas Roadhouse has the greatest bread of all time.
It has some really good bread.
And
that
sometimes
butter.
and sometimes I'm craving the bread and butter.
Right,
so
right. That butter, though.
it's not up for debate at that point, you
No.
know. So all right, so talk to me then now a little bit of when you first got the idea of starting this blog. I mean, you had just moved here. It's 2010.
Mhm.
You were working at Hulco, right?
Yep.
And so, I mean, what inspired you to want to talk about the developments around town?
So it kind of goes the same way I tell everybody.
Because you were amazed by
just
how big the city was compared to where you came from.
that, and there was a lot happening, and there's still a lot happening, even with the oil field being down, according to all the sources you read,
Mhm.
and with all the businesses closing, it's still up. But in 2012, I was driving. No, actually, we were sitting at Olive Garden. Speaking of, and we were with the big table, a bunch of family, and we were sitting on the side of Olive Garden that faces what is Cheddar's right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so at that time, Cheddar's was not there. It was under construction. It was a big place of land that was just dirt. I just bumped the mic. It was just a bunch of dirt and a bunch of tractors. And
I remember that. Yeah.
we were all talking about, like, what is that going to be, and probably a car dealership type thing. And
It's actually a pretty good guess.
right. I mean,
because a lot of them have opened up right down the road.
right down on Johnson, man. That
Yeah.
is car dealership alley.
Yeah.
And so fast forward, me and my wife drove down Johnston, and we saw the sign for Cheddar's coming soon at that spot. And I think the framing was going up. And, I told my wife, I was like, man, it'd be pretty sweet if there was, like, a place that was able to tell me what this was going to be. If I knew about it, I would have
Mhm.
checked there and said, oh, that's going to be a Cheddar's, eventually. And so I told my wife, I'm going to check just to see if there's anything like that out there. And, it'd be cool to follow it. And there was nothing. I
Mhm.
mean, like I tell people, unless you want to sift through, the next murder that just happened, a car wreck, what the political leader at the time is doing that everybody's outraged about, and
Right.
that continues to happen. Unless you want to sift through all that, you're not going to get, like, a consistent list of everything that's being built and that you see happening while you're driving around town. So knowing that there wasn't anything like that, I created a Facebook page because it was free.
Right.
And, the best way to not have to spend money is to go to Facebook first. And so I just started taking pictures of different construction sites. And as soon as I knew about it and knew that I can post and say, hey, this is definitively what it's going to be, I'd share it. And if I didn't know what it was going to be, I would just kind of post a picture and said, this is what it looks like. If anybody knows what this is going to be, put it in the comments, and then I would edit the post to reflect what the correct comment would be if somebody knew for sure. Usually it was a realtor or a city official that knew exactly what it was going to be. And so from that point on, I just kept doing that. I just kept posting new construction and all that good stuff. And it slowly grew. And I want to say, like I said, I started in April 2012, and in 9 months later, in 2013, I had posted about Whole Foods and the Cajun Cable X, I think it was called, like a wakeboarding park.
Yeah. I've been there.
So I posted those two things at the same time. I think it's around February, March of 2013. And I had about probably, give or take, 700 followers at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And for 9 months, that's pretty normal if you're just doing consistent stuff and if you haven't gone viral yet, or
Of course,
whatever
yeah.
you want to call it. But in those 2 months after posting Whole Foods and Cajun Cable, we grew pretty quick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
People were really excited about the Whole Foods.
yeah,
and
it was the
Cajun,
Whole
yeah.
Foods thing and the Cajun
You
Cable.
had all of the athletes that were really psyched about the wakeboarding thing.
Yeah, so both of those combined, pretty much the same. I think it was the same day I posted it. Me and a friend of mine at work, my prior job, we went to lunch, and while sitting there at lunch, it was about an hour, I was refreshing the Facebook page just to see if there was any action, and we had noticed a big jump from what was 700-800 followers. We were in less than an hour already over 1,000 followers, and I would refresh the Facebook page, and we were growing at about 100 to 200 followers within 5 to 10 minutes. Like,
wow.
that was a wild point.
And you know what's crazy about that is part of that is because you posted what they wanted to see that day.
Right.
But what's really interesting is those 9 months of slugging it, because you had the catalog of information, is people were interested in it, they go click on it, and then they see all the stuff you've already done. Like, oh man, this guy's like really active. He's doing his thing. So it's
Right.
like, because you worked hard those 9 months prior and were kind of just scratching the surface of the potential, right? Then you were able to grow really fast because
Yeah.
you posted the right thing.
Yeah.
They saw you had, the chops to keep it up and that kind of thing. So they were willing to follow.
Yeah, and this is not the first Facebook page that I created. I created one. It was called Lafayette Is, and did not go anywhere. I don't even
Is
know.
it still up?
No, I think I deleted it.
Yeah.
I don't even know exactly where I was going to go with it. I was trying to establish some type of community Facebook page, and I was like, Lafayette is food, Lafayette is everything, like Lafayette is your home, and it was like pretty much Lafayette is, and then you could put any
Whatever, yeah.
adjective there. And I had like maybe 30 followers on it, and I was like, man, I just kind of like hung it up because it's like I don't even know what I'm doing with it. I don't even know what to post, and when then the Developing Lafayette page happened, more of my time went to that.
So what's crazy is, you're talking about the inception, 700 followers to 1,000. It's really exciting. You've grown so much since then. So what's that been like?
It's been crazy.
Yeah.
Because
y'all are up to borderline 40, 50, huh?
I think altogether on all the social media channels, we are over 50,000. That's including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we just started kind of posting to LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's been growing pretty fast, about 100 to 150 followers every week or two.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
I didn't know LinkedIn
Yeah.
was so popular.
Hey, it's ever since, I don't know if I'll get in trouble saying this, but ever since they kind of copied the look of Facebook, their interactions
A little
and
more
all
accessible,
That,
yeah.
people understood the platform a little bit better,
Right.
because before that it was a little bit more. It was a little bit harder to navigate.
Yeah,
and
I found it
understand
super esoteric. Like I couldn't. It's like you had to be a LinkedIn guy to understand. You had to have been using it to really get it.
Yeah, and
Jumping in late, it was kind of like, whoa.
It's a little bit more
What is
social
this?
now, since because they have a like button.
I see.
You can share, and posting to it's kind of easy too.
Oh, okay, I
But
gotcha.
yeah, so Facebook has I think 36,000 right now, or close to it. I think it's 36.2 something.
That's just amazing because when you think about it, right? Like you're talking about a town altogether probably has like 400,000 when you include all the municipalities,
Right,
and you got
probably.
36,000 people liking your page. That's a significant portion of the population, right? Like that's really cool.
It's a decent amount. I think the metropolitan area, like the business limits, I think is about 100 and something thousand.
Right.
So we have a pretty large chunk. But what's interesting is,
And are y'all talking about all municipalities or just Lafayette City?
so we talk about anything that's going to even remotely affect Lafayette as a city by itself. So Lafayette as a parish, it's interesting because Lafayette City, Lafayette Parish, we kind of have that name to where we can already support the entire parish.
Right.
But So like what happens in Breaux Bridge may affect Lafayette. What happens in Opelousas may affect Lafayette.
So even out of the parish,
Yeah,
they're
so we
still,
do out of the parish. So far, it's been mostly north and northeast postings. I haven't done too much like in the New Iberia area, and I know New Iberia has some exciting things happening there. And of course, going west after Scott, there's not that much kind of happening. So like I said, mostly north and northeast.
So it's an interesting time to get into this kind of business because Lafayette has really developed a lot
Right.
in the past 5 years. Do you think some of y'all's biggest growth was around the Costco development? Because I mean, there's just so much going on that y'all could be consistently updating everyone. I feel like that's a time that everyone was looking for like your page to figure out what is going to be there.
So the Costco thing was pretty good, obviously. Just Costco by itself was already the attractor for the post or any post that we did. We kind of labeled it the Costco development because that's
Well, I
what
mean, I
everybody
almost
knew.
feel like you guys are the ones who pioneered that. Like, I think the fact that we all call it the Costco development might be because of y'all. I don't think that the developers were like, this is the Costco development, you know?
No, of
But
course
I think
not.
that y'all made it that, and like that's what me and my friends we call it the Costco development. Like everyone calls it the Costco development. It's pretty
That's
funny. Yeah.
But, well, the reason why I call it that is because it was kind of like when you think of Costco that, oh, I'm going to the Costco area. Like you don't say I'm going to Ambassador Town Center.
Right.
Like people would be like, where's that? Because there's Ambassador Crossing, there's Ambassador Row, there's Ambassador Courtyard, there's Ambassador everything.
Yeah.
And so when you say Costco area or Costco development, oh, I know where you're going. Or the Whole Foods development. Yeah, I know that's that.
Right. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting. And if people are calling the developments that because we're naming that, that's interesting. And I don't want to take credit for that, but you know.
Well, I'll give you the credit. You don't have to take credit
cool.
because I'm pretty sure it was you guys. I mean, like that. It really that's what we call it nowadays, and I feel like it's because of y'all's postings at that time that kind of stuck. You know, which is
that's
cool.
what I call it. So if everybody calls it what I call it, that's cool.
That is pretty cool.
Do you have an idea for your community but no clue how to put it into action? The 24-Hour Citizen Project is an annual event that connects great ideas with the expertise, decision makers, and financial backing to help make them a reality in the Acadiana area. Be prepared to experience the ups and downs of pursuing your idea, the pressure of getting it done in 24 hours, and the encouragement given to you by your fellow citizens cheering you on. These aren't ideas for the city to take on, but rather projects taken on by teams made up of everyday people accomplishing extraordinary things together. Some examples of past projects include the Y Lafayette letters in Park Sans-Souci, Hydrate Lafayette, which installed drinking fountains all around Lafayette, and the bus stop shelter. A team set out to take on a new bus stop design for Lafayette. The annual event is designed so that anyone can participate, whether you're pursuing an idea of your own, providing your expertise, or financially backing a project. Learn how you can take part and make a difference in your community at civicside.com. And now, back to the interview.
So, other than y'all's first kind of explosive growth when you were starting to get 100 followers every couple minutes after the Whole Foods and Cajun X cables, what was like the next kind of highlight during this journey?
So from Whole Foods, I guess the next highlight, man, I would have to go back and look to see what was like the biggest post or the biggest time frame after that point. But Costco wasn't far behind the Whole Foods. And what's interesting about the Whole Foods is we're able to post about Whole Foods consistently after we announce it, because usually when a development happens, you start getting more information leaked, weeks at a time, or in months down the road. So Whole Foods was announced, and then it was announced that like Nukes and all these other little places in there, later on Chicken Salad Chick. So we're able to trail off on that and kind of keep momentum. But as far as like a significant post after that, it's kind of hard to put a finger on it, because there's been a lot of posts that we've made that kind of felt like it had a very similar impact as the Whole Foods one did. I want to say the Whole Foods post was kind of like the inflection point. So we were kind of a small thing where barely anybody heard about us. And then that one post is what kind of jump started the thing. And it's kind of been on a good path since then. Of course, you're going to have dips in, how many followers you get at a time. But over the past few years, it's been consistently, about 100 or so followers a week. In the 2 years after the Whole Foods post was made, so from 2013 into 2000, right at the beginning of 2015, we were growing probably about 10,000 followers a year, I believe.
Wow.
So it was a decent amount, but
it is a lot.
There's a few things that are coming up now that I think would be kind of like reminiscent of the Whole Foods kind of like feel. I don't want to mention too much of that right now, but there's so much happening in Lafayette that I feel like the more people see the things that are happening, the more excited they get. So let's say, for example, if we were to rewind back into 2013, whenever I posted Whole Foods, let's say I had 35,000 followers then, and I posted about Whole Foods, it would have been astronomical about how much following or how much interaction.
So basically, what you're saying is, if we have another thing like Whole Foods, now that you've established following, it's going to be a big deal.
Right. So if I had to say what would be the next Whole Foods right now, it would be Trader Joe's. If we got a Trader Joe's,
well, yeah, because on your wish list, isn't that like number 1 or 2?
It toggles between 1 and 2, and I think the next one after that is like renovating the Northgate Mall to be like Tanger Outlets. But Trader Joe's has been up there. It has a lot of votes, and I don't want to say it's not happening or is happening, but there's talk about it. So if that were to happen, that'd be a pretty significant post.
Totally. So let me take it back real quick, because I'm interested. I know you mentioned that now you're full-time developing Lafayette. Can you talk me through when it transitioned from just a Facebook page blog to an actual business, and then then the transition from that to now you working full-time?
Sure. So in 2013, I didn't have a website or anything like that. And I think in the summer, in June 25th, which I think is a Tuesday, was when our website we started a website, and that's when it went live.
Did you design the logo for it, by the way?
So are you talking about the logo now?
Yeah.
No, the logo now I did not design. We actually had a local Lake Charles branding agency help us out with that. Before that, though, I had designed all the logos from that, and it didn't change that much. It just had DL kind of merged together. But
gotcha. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what were we talking about just a second ago?
So the website was finally
the
put
website.
up. Yeah.
So in 2013, we started the website, and at that time there was no real thought of how it was going to make money. I just kind of I googled how do blogs make money, and every article was like, oh, you put Google ads on it, and I'm like, okay, well, cool. If I put Google ads on my website, I'm gonna be a millionaire by next year, and that didn't happen. But we to get a Google ads on your site too is a kind of a process. If you don't have enough content, they have to approve you. But I bugged them enough, and about a month later, they approved me, and I was making all of 15 to 20 cents a day at the time.
Killing it.
I mean, I was ready to retire in a couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, on that path.
But I said, there's got to be a better way to make money. And so I just read a bunch of articles. I just started really diving into how bloggers make money, and I was like, there's got to be something. So sponsored content, there's selling your own ads, using an ad server, and I think Google has an ad server that we use to kind of combine AdSense and the stuff that we sell. So the stuff that we sell, we can sell for more money because we have control over it.
Right.
And if it's more local, we can kind of cater to what it would best fit to be on our site. So I put that in place in 2013 as well. And I'm not a salesperson, but to get out there and sell an ad was tough. And and I want to say that I did relatively well with it for just being a side gig, working my full-time job. I mean, full disclosure, I made about $10K a year just in side money from that. And so
that's good.
It kept me interested.
That's really good. That's definitely interesting.
There's been times.
That's banner ads on the website kind of thing.
That's banner ads.
Side ads. Yeah.
All those spots.
Yeah.
Those are what pay the bills. So if we don't sell there, Google Ads pays a decent amount per month, but it's not anything to rave about as far as like, oh, we can do strictly Google Ads. But
Sure.
that making that amount of money on the side was enough to keep my interest, because there were plenty of times where I was like, I'm getting burnt out,
Of course.
and I'm getting a lot of there's been some like rude comments, and
Oh,
it
sure.
really beats you up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's
But,
Facebook, so you
yeah,
can't.
it's Facebook.
People are not at their best.
It's the internet.
It's the internet,
Which
which is an unfortunate thing,
right.
because it's ultimately a positive sign.
Yeah, oh yeah.
You know, so
But though, what I found was there was plenty more people that appreciated what I was doing and the labor that I was putting into it. That the few negative comments that I would get, were I was able to push it to the side,
Yeah.
and I thought, that one comment isn't paying me the $10,000 a year.
right.
It's all the positive people that are reading the site and actually going to the site and clicking and, finding interest in it. So, that's what kept the interest in it from that point.
Yeah.
And then going forward, into, I guess, fast forward to 2016, there was a post that I had made. I was like, how can I make more money? How can I go full time? I was actively trying to go full time with it. And I had made a post asking if my followers would be willing to donate money per month. And I was literally only asking for $1 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that that's not a good model to fit.
No one wants that.
No, and people want free content. And it's interesting that newspapers are still trying to get subscribers and paid subscribers. It's the internet. You can find the information one way or the other.
I know, like when you click on an article or something, it says, subscribe for $5. It's like,
right.
No.
Right. You just,
And it's unfortunate because I know that, but it's like, that's just not the culture of today. It's just
Right.
so difficult to,
it's totally just give me the information. I don't want to pay for it. I already pay for the internet. I already pay
Right.
my phone bill. It's astronomical. I'm not paying, however many cents a week or whatever.
Right.
But, so that model was not going to work. And so at that point, that's when, my partner Skip reached out to me and was like, hey, I think we may be able to help you, achieve what you're trying to do. But, let's talk, let's meet and see what we can come up with. And so about a month and a half went down. And so we ended up partnering, and we had a plan moving forward of what would it be like to get me full time. And so we just worked on that plan. We did a few things here and there. And about a year later, here I am full time. So it's an interesting journey so far, and it's definitely not over.
Absolutely. Well, tell me a little bit about Skip. Who is he? What does he do? And how do y'all know each other?
So Skip is a financial advisor, or at least he works for a financial firm. And so he's always had his eye on helping small businesses, or businesses that could use help. And so he saw the post, and of course I worked with his sister at my prior employer.
Okay.
So we had some kind of connection that way. And so he reached out, and that's when we made the deal. But yeah, he's a financial advisor. He's a real nice guy. He's really in line with the vision that I wanted Developing Lafayette to go. And he also pushes me to try different things with the concept that still stays in the core of what Developing Lafayette is.
Right.
But to try other things and different avenues that could help make more money, and to be able to help do this sustainably long term.
Right. So, I mean, at the beginning, were you traveling to all these places by yourself, taking pictures? Like, do you have a team now that does all this for you? And I guess the other question is, you were going out and seeking these places. I feel like now, are you just getting contacted by people saying like, hey, we're developing, please post about us, Like what's the difference between then and now?
So there's not that much difference from then and that now. I actually still go out and I take the pictures myself, just because we formed a company now and all that good stuff doesn't mean I'm like sitting in a high-rise penthouse, right, collecting a check, because that's definitely not how it is.
Right.
The reason why I needed to go full-time is because there is a lot of stuff that I need to do. There's a lot of posts. And a lot of businesses suppose I get Did I just hit
No,
that?
that was me.
Oh, I get contacted all the time from different business owners and people that are related to these business owners, and even the city reaches out. Like different municipalities reach out to me for questions about developments that I've posted because either they don't know about them yet, or
Which is interesting.
yeah, no, that's happened plenty of times where I'll get a message saying, where did you get this information? And like, what is this? Because we don't have this on our books. I'm like,
Right.
well, I try to do my best to like tell them if I can where it came from.
Yeah.
But I get all the pictures myself. I try to contact these businesses either which way I can. Usually it's through Facebook. And if you don't use Facebook and I message you through Facebook, it's unfortunate because I'm going to use the information that I can find available to me. I don't like calling people. And that might sound a little weird, but it's awkward. I don't want to call you to say, hey, what's happening at your business? And
Sure.
let me probe and see what you're doing, because I got to go into the explanation mode of like, why am I,
Interested.
wondering, and who are you? Or like, are you with the government? Like I've had people chase me to my car, not in a threatening way, but
When you take
like
a picture.
yeah, I would take a picture, and usually whenever I drive up to a business, I park, I take a picture, I check my picture, make sure it came out well. I get other pictures if I have to, out like different angles, and I hop in my car and I jet. Because usually I have what I need to make a pretty significant post just to show people that are driving by what is going to happen.
Sure.
And I've had business owners open the door and scream at me and like walk towards me, and I say chase as if it was a crazy thing. They don't actually chase me, but in a sense, they're coming after me and want to know, what am I doing? One person was like, hey, are you with the paper? I'm like, no, I'm not a newspaper.
Right.
I'm a development blog, and I'll tell you about it. Here's the website, and I post about new businesses coming, and yours is one of them that I'm posting about.
Yeah.
And at that point, whenever they understand it, they're like, oh, well, come on in, and like,
Yeah. Let me show you around.
let me show the yogurt machines, and if you want to try a sample, go ahead. I'm like, okay. So when that happens, it's awkward at first, but you can always butter me up whenever you're gonna offer me something free.
I mean, free ice cream, you can't really.
Oh yeah,
That's
you can't
pretty
beat
good.
that at all.
That's funny. So, but like, it's funny that they would be like, so like, are you with the paper? It's like, well, what if you were? Like you're just taking a picture. It's like it's
Right.
public.
Right.
Like you can take a picture.
It's funny because there's been times where people have called the police, and I've never been approached by the police at all.
Right.
But when a business, especially after hours, when a business is shut down or whatnot, there's cameras that are rolling, and if a strange car pulls up and you see a guy come out and take a picture of your place or whatnot, you probably wonder, what's happening.
Yeah. What's the deal?
And it could, I think the concern with the stories that I've heard was that, it could be an organized robbery, an organized burglary where somebody's taking a picture of the property, knowing
Before it's finished, yeah.
yeah,
Knowing
before
where certain
it's
rooms-
finished or like it's about to open,
Yeah.
but they're getting a lay of the entrances or whatnot.
I see.
And I understand the concern, and trust me, if you see me taking a picture and if you're concerned, approach me and I'll let you know what's happening.
Right. You're not the most intimidating person in the world, so I wouldn't think like, oh, well, he's definitely an organized crime guy.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
totally. I'm such an organized crime guy. But and like I've heard people say, that the police was contacted, and usually if the police officers or have been in business or been in their job for a while, they may or may not know that if you're a new business or new construction, it's probably this guy if they know of the website.
Sure.
I don't know that to be 100%, but I've heard stories where people say, oh yeah, this police officer told this person that, it was probably a news company or something like that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, back to the root of the question. I do all my own stuff, man, and I get chased, and, and I do have 2 sales reps that do the advertising sales for us because, like I said, I hate selling, and I had to do it to make an ends meet. But yeah, they helped me out. They helped get pictures and information if we needed to.
So, how does someone from Turkey Creek, be so knowledgeable? I'm acting like you don't have internet out there, but I mean, like, you're very talented with social media and the internet, and utilizing it the right way and gaining followers and attracting attention and that kind of thing. I mean, it just, call me stereotypical, but it seems like someone from Turkey Creek may not have that much experience in the social media realm.
Man, it's funny because in Turkey Creek, that's probably some of the most nosiest people around.
I see.
So think about if you live in like a place like Lafayette or New Orleans or any big city, when you hear an ambulance or a fire truck or a police officer, do you run out of your house and go?
Unless it's three streets. I mean, three houses down from me. No.
Right, but if you hear a siren in the distance, do you hop out of your house, hop into your car, and follow that emergency vehicle?
It's not very common here.
No, people in Turkey Creek do.
I see. Okay.
And I can say that because my mom would do that, and she's done that, and we've actually had to hop in the car with her to go see where this emergency vehicle is going.
When you were young, she can't leave you at the house by yourself, so you got to go with mom for a little ride.
Right, and truth be told, we were nosy too as kids because we,
a game.
If it was a fire, as unfortunate as a fire is, seeing a house burn is a crazy thing, and as a kid,
you've never seen something.
Yeah, like so of course we were nosy enough, so we'd want to see something happening, or if it was a wreck. But most of the time, it was an ambulance, and in Lafayette, you don't have people running out to do that.
No, that's not very common. It's a very small town thing.
So getting to where I'm getting at with this is that now with the internet and social networks, people can be nosier without hopping into their car and go and do that. Because now, instead of 15 people hopping into their car and following in this emergency vehicle, there's this one lady who's probably going to do it. And this one lady,
she'll post about it.
Yeah, this one lady's going to post to her Facebook page, and because she's connected with everybody in the small town, everybody in that small town is going to be like, "Did you hear so and so? Well, had this or had their house burn or whatnot." So, coming from that kind of like situation in life, I developed my own nosiness due to growing up that way and having nosy people and nosy family members, and I'm thankful for that. And so utilizing social networks to be nosy is what most people do now anyway, even if you live in a big city.
Right.
So it's kind of like that anonymous way of, I guess, staying out of the scene. And so I learned, and plus back to the question of how would I know, how would I be well-versed in that is, since I was 13, I loved computers. That's when I got my first computer, and it was like one of those gateway computers with the black and white cow box.
Yeah, the cow, yeah.
Yeah, so I tinkered with that, and growing up, I wanted to be an IT guy. I wanted to do networking, and then graduating high school, I started doing graphic design, and that's what got me to Lafayette, and then of course coming to Lafayette, I see something that I can help. Provide information for, which is new construction. And so knowing all the knowledge that I had and being able to design logos and all that good stuff and knowing how to work a computer fairly well. I'm not a 100% power user, but I knew how to work a computer well enough to where I can create something. And so the social networks are not that hard to understand. You just follow the kind of like their practices. Like if you can tag somebody, why wouldn't you tag somebody? And that's what I do.
Where do you see development Lafayette? I mean, I know you can't disclose everything, but what do y'all see yourselves doing in the future? Are you going to expand to not just building development, but other types of developments, or like what are y'all doing in the future?
So in the immediate future, as far as expansion goes, we have a Lake Charles Facebook page that's been active since 2014, and it has about 20,000 roughly followers.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
Yep. And so it's been a goal for me to get Lake Charles up and running as a full-fledged website, kind of like Developing Lafayette is now.
Sure.
And that this year we just signed a deal with a guy there who has an advertising company who does all his own selling and everything, and he's gonna take up the task and the challenge of posting content and staying up to date with Lake Charles, and he's gonna basically follow our methods of how we got started here and what brought us to where we are now. And he's gonna pull that. He's gonna sell ads. He's gonna post content.
Wow. Cool.
And yeah, and of course, we're gonna get paid a certain amount. Basically, we're franchising out what the concept is. And so,
do you see yourself doing that in almost all the big cities in Louisiana? Or even further?
I want to. I'd like to go to the other places, and we have plans to do that. Immediate future, we have after Lake Charles, we are going to a city that's outside of the state, but it's more of a touristy type city. And I won't get into the specifics of that yet, but we're going to go there, get that established. And then my ultimate goal, and I think I can say this because I have the domain for it, is developing Las Vegas. So that's been a goal for me. And since I think I bought the domain to develop in Las Vegas back in 2013.
It's a sweet domain to own.
It is.
It's an expensive domain to own, I feel like,
It'll be expensive once the concept is proven there.
Right. That's all right.
My chair. But once we get there, I'll feel like that's like my end goal. Of course, I shouldn't have like no other goals, but future, I want to be there. And of course, the other cities in Louisiana, like Baton Rouge, developing Baton Rouge, the domain was already bought by somebody else besides us. And
that sucks.
Yeah, it sucks, but it's also good because the concept that they tried to pull, and it was pretty much copying our name. I mean, you can't sit there and tell me that developing Baton Rouge was thought up freshly from someone's mind without seeing developing Lafayette. We're so close that they saw our name. They probably thought, oh, we can create a website, and we could probably do it better, And so they have a concept out, and in my opinion, it's not what people want. It's a map setup. You're supposed to be able to go to the site, and if you see a development, you got to research development. Like you got to find the little blip on the map and click it, and then it'll tell you what it is. Well, what we do is we're blog format. So whenever we make a new post, we have emails that get sent out. We have push notifications that get sent out. And so people are spoon-fed the post instead of having to do the extra work. Because if you got to do extra work, especially nowadays on the internet, you're not gonna. People want the stuff to come to them. They don't want to go out and find it, because if that were the case, if there were more people willing to go out and find it, then this page would have already existed way before I thought about it.
Totally. So, I mean, is your goal kind of to buy up as many domains of like cities that you hope to expand to in the future? Because they're good domain names, I mean, they're kind of sweet and hot commodities.
So yeah, and we're gonna try our best to acquire all the domain names that we feel
you see yourself expanding.
Could we buy every single domain of every big city in the United States? We could. It'd take a long time. It would take an extreme amount of money.
Yeah.
We'd have a large reoccurring bill, and it's not feasible to buy all those domains. So if there is a domain that we need and it's already been acquired, most of the time people see a domain that's popular or becoming popular, and what they'll do is they'll buy the domain and squat on it. They'll be like, "Oh, I know this website's about to blow up or something."
.com millionaires, that's where it all came from.
Right. So, developing Houston was already bought, the domain, and there's no website attached to it. So I know that's a squatter. And so they're like, "Oh yeah, eventually they got to come to Houston, so we're going to buy the domain." And whenever they come to Houston, they're going to want the domain from us. Well, we may just
change
come up with a different domain and still be developing Houston. We don't have to have the developinghouston.com name, even though it would be nice.
Yeah.
If you're charging too much of a premium, we obviously figure something out. Yeah.
You're smart people.
We try.
So that's cool though, man. I mean, like there's tons of room for expansion is what I'm hearing. You know, I mean, I didn't know that you were looking outside of even the state. You know, that's really cool that you're willing to turn this into a big thing. I mean, it's already
Yeah.
a big thing in locally and statewide, but there's a big future for it, I hear.
Yeah, and I've had, like I said, I've had this planned even before I partnered up with some good people, good business minded people. So before all of that happened, I knew that one day I wanted to be in certain cities. So like developing Alexandria, we have the Facebook page running for that. It's small. There's no website backend on that. The only one that has a website backend right now is Lafayette, because we were proven that we can come up with processes here that we're going to take to Lake Charles. We're already moving those processes over to Lake Charles as we speak. So Lake Charles is going to be running on a website really soon.
Did you do was it all organic reach when you were growing, especially like Lafayette and Lake Charles, or did you take out any ads on Facebook to get people to come and like the page?
The only ad that I paid for the first 5 years, and we're almost 6 years old. The only ad that I really took out was the kind of like Facebook incentive ad. And I think that was in 2012, 2013, where Facebook was like, hey, we're going to give you $50 and you use this $50 on advertising however you please. And at the time, their advertising wasn't as sophisticated as it is now.
Right.
You couldn't boost a post. There was no boosting at
It
the time.
was only like the ad manager type deal.
Well, it wasn't even an ad manager.
I see.
It was like the ads you see on the sidebar.
Oh,
Just
I gotcha.
those.
I see.
And I'm like, I don't. I mean, I'll use the $50.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the time, I didn't even use the $50 wisely. I like set it up to where the $50 would last me like 2 or 3 months, and
You're spending like 10 cents a day.
yeah,
kind
I
of
was
thing.
spending like I think I want to say I put 2 to 3 cents as my budget daily. And
That's
so I was
hilarious.
trying to stretch this sucker, and I may have gotten a few clicks on it, but nothing like you can now. Like now you can spend a few bucks and reach a couple hundred people,
Right.
if you know who to target and how to use it.
Yeah.
And Facebook ads are great. We use them. We actually use them for people that advertise with us. So we'll boost a post if we feel like we can reach even more people.
I see.
Because it not only benefits us, but it benefits the business that's advertising with us to boost the post and to get more reach from that.
Y'all partnered with Cox Business recently. How did that partnership come about? Like, what was the idea behind it?
So the partnership kind of came about because we were looking to establish obviously revenue, but kind of like a more community driven type sense. And even though we're already community-esque, we wanted to have more community involvement, and Cox Business, they're involved in certain community aspects, even though they're a big company. So we pretty much agreed to have Cox Business sponsor parts of our website. So we created a resource page where you can go to that resource page and see how to create a business, see what law firm to use to create that business, what firms to get connected with to help you learn and excel in the business, like Accelerate Acadiana, the OM Opportunity Machine.
Yeah.
Those different things, and like Sunbelt Brokers, they help buy and sell businesses. So we have those on a resource page, and Cox Business headlines the resource page, and it's Cox Business and developing Lafayette's resource page.
Cool.
And we kind of like gave this on our own. The video that we do every month, the profile video,
Sure.
that we put their logo on it and said it's going to be called the Cox Business Entrepreneurial Profile. And at the time, it wasn't even a video; it was just text.
Right.
And we said, well, let's do video because videos are cool.
Yeah.
And so obviously you'd know that. But
Right.
so we just stuck their logo on there and made it look nice. And we got like I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it, Persona Pictures.
Yeah.
So they do every month. We hire them to kind of like do the video and editing, and they make it look good for us. And of course, that makes Cox look better. That makes us look better. So that's kind of how that came about, and we're still gonna have them on for as long as we can.
Totally. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I really could talk to you forever about all this. This is fun, but we're probably gonna have to wrap it up. So, is there anything that you really want to talk about that I haven't brought up?
Not really, man. I think we touched about everything that I thought we'd touch on. Probably more than I thought we would.
That's always fun.
Yeah, stuff that I don't tell people often, especially
That's good. This is kind of the point of the podcast.
Yeah,
is to
especially
dive deep a little bit.
like the cop situation, and business owners coming out and like interrogating me and asking me what I'm doing.
That's
Those
pretty
types
funny.
of things people don't hear about often, and I surely don't try to like post that in my postings because
Sure.
I keep them pretty consistent. So if I'm posting about a new Dollar Tree, my Dollar Tree post is gonna be Dollar Tree oriented. It's not gonna be
Right.
like, oh, by the way, a cop chased me at
Yeah.
Dollar General or whatnot. And
Right.
chances are that could have worked, but I try to keep it to the business.
Yeah. Well, man, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to see the growth that develop in Lafayette and hopefully, develop in whatever
Right.
comes in the next couple of years. So
Yeah,
it's
and
been a pleasure talking.
Yeah, been a pleasure, and Lafayette's going to continue growing. And as long as Lafayette and every other city that we go to grows, we're going to continue to grow. And so we're looking forward to it.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Pleasure talking to you. Thanks,
You
man.
too. Thank you.
This episode of Sheauxtime is brought to you by CivicSide. Have an idea for your community but not sure how to get it done? The 24-Hour Citizen Project is an annual event that connects great ideas with the expertise, decision makers, and financial backing to help make them a reality. But these aren't ideas that the city takes on. These are projects taken on by you, the citizens of the community. Learn more at civicside.com.